All right, people, here's what we're going to do today. We're going to add adjustable foot pegs. So I've got the Puig pegs on there now, but they're in the standard position. They look nicer, but I want to move the pegs up a little bit and back just a little bit for a little bit extra clearance, but also just to change my stance a little bit so it matches. I've got a lower bar that's quite a bit forward, and it feels weird to be leaning forward with your feet still directly below you. So I tried the rear set way, and I may try to make that work again at some point, but I didn't like the flex on the other side. I may go to a heavier duty bolt. But in the meantime, what I went and did was this is a different base. This is just slid on here now for illustrative purposes. I can't hold the camera while I'm working, so I'll start and stop this a few times. I'll splice it all together. But what we're gonna do here is I'm going to slide this off. We're going to remove the base. Very simple. There's a C-clip here. I'm going to pull it off with a pair of needle nose and pull that off. Pin comes out, and then we're going to change out the base for the new one. The new base is going to go on, and you'll see that there's a bit of a cam there, and there's some little detent kind of looking pins. They're like stop pins that are going to go in those holes. And then this is going to go on, and that's going to allow us to rotate it, and those pins are going to fit in those holes and lock in. And then our peg is going to mount up to this right here by sliding over that. Okay? So that's going to let us rotate this, which is then going to let us move up, back, or in whatever direction after I drop it and scratch it. This is what I get for trying to do everything one-handed. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this, come back, mount up the base, the new base unit right here to that, and then we'll go through setting it up and how you can adjust it. So be back in a minute. All right, so we got the new base on there. We got it oriented properly. Make sure when you put it in that the curvy side faces up and that the spring goes in where it needs to go. That way it can rotate up, but it can't go down. And then these are going to go on. And then this is going to slide onto that. But the first thing you do, if you put that on, it's going to spin, all right? So what we're going to want to do now is we got a little baggie of these pins. And we need to take two holes opposite of each other. I don't know that it makes a difference which ones you pick. I'm not sure why there's more than one choice. But you're going to put two pins on one side, and they're going to use two pins on the other. So we're going to pop those in. We're going to thread the bolt for the peg onto the adjuster, but we're not going to tighten it down yet. And that's because depending on where this is, you may want to rotate this to get it aligned where you want. Because if it's up here, that's going to be different. You don't want it facing that way. You want to be able to then rotate it this way. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble these pieces and lightly tighten this one here, get the pins in there, and then we're going to find the right position and show you how to lock it all in. When you do this, put Loctites on the bolts. You got the main bolt that's going to hold the gold peg, in this case, to the base or to the adjuster, and then you're going to have this other one that's going to mount this piece here to this. We're going to use blue Loctite. Do not use red. That's a good way to strip a bolt sometime later when you're trying to get it out. So use the blue, don't use red. We'll apply that. Let me get this all in here ready to go, and then we'll play with the adjustment. Okay, so I've got this mounted up very loosely, so if I want to spin that, I can. And now you'll notice that there are the two lock pins in those holes that are going to correspond to those. So what you want to do now is orient this to where you think you're going to want your peg. I wanted mine to go up a little bit and back. So if I wanted to move it, I could pull it out and I can rotate it and I can mount it just straight back. So I'm going to go, and here's the thing you got to remember. When you pull those out, those pins will often pop out with it. So don't lose these. So figure out where you want to orient it. Might even work if you took a little bit of Loctite, like red, because it gets kind of gooey or gummy, and put those in so they kind of stick in there, because you don't really have to remove those. Those kind of go and just stay in place. But go ahead and get your pins in. Figure out which way you want to get this on. I'm right-handed, and I'm trying to work upside down, so of course I'm now struggling with this. All right, we got our pins in place. I know where I want to get that in there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the camera over here. And what I'm going to do is take my bolt, put a little bit of blue Loctite on the threads, Come on, blue Loctite. There we go. And looks like I'm gonna need another T-handle. Be right back. Yes, I'm in my pajamas. Beauty of working from home when you're gonna come out and work on stuff at lunchtime. So what I'm gonna do now is orient this where I want, which I wanted it slightly up and slightly back. And now what I need to do is go ahead and screw that in. You see now with those locking pins, that wiggle is just the inherent wiggle from the thing itself, the mount. So I am basically back and up a tiny bit. So I'm gonna try it there. What you wanna do now is snug that down. I'll torque it a little bit. And now I can adjust where I want the peg to be. You know, you gotta think your foot's gonna be, if you're cruising around and your foot's up on the ball of your toes gonna be kind of pointing forward, or when you're hanging off the bike. So usually I'll have it canted forward at about like that. And if you'll notice there's actual little lines, so you can make sure that both sides match. So what I'm gonna do now is then tighten that bolt underneath. And I'll go ride this at some point. And so what we've done is gone back and a little up. And actually, I think I'm gonna go up one more. I want that to be a little bit higher. So let's go ahead and make that adjustment now while I'm here. So we're going to loosen that, see if that's enough to pop it out and go to the next setting, or see if it pulled those stupid pins out with it. No, those pins are in. So let's go up one. And now we'll rotate this accordingly. So now we're basically up at a 45-degree angle. So we're up and back about an equal amount. So I think that's what we're going to want to do. And so then what I'll probably do is put the peg on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hatch number 5. And that way my foot should be resting it on it somewhere like that. And that's about the angle your foot's going to be at. So that's back and up an equal amount. And we're going to ride it like that. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten all that up. And then we'll compare it to the other side after I wipe off all the dust off the lens that hopefully hasn't been jacking up the video here so far. So we're going to go ahead and tighten that one. And holding that steady so it doesn't rotate when I tighten the bolt. All right, so there we are. We are up and back. Now I may have to adjust the lever, although the brake lever I'm less concerned with. And you can see how that sits versus how it sits down here. So once I move this up and back, I may have to go ahead and adjust this as well. We'll see what happens. But anyway, that's it. I'll give a ride review later, but it's pretty straightforward. I already had a Puig base for the Puig pegs. I'm just going to take that peg off, put on the new base, add the adjuster, get it oriented where I want, and tighten it up to the 4th hatch so it matches the other side. And that'll move my feet up and back a little bit, which just makes it a little more aggressive when you're riding with lower bars. These bars are quite a bit lower and quite a bit forward from where the stock ones were. The stock ones were way the hell back here where my hand is. They were like beach bars on a old-time cruising pedal bike. So anyway, we'll get this done and we'll do a review shortly, hopefully in the next couple days. Okay, here we are, all buttoned up. It's not a radical change. Now this adjuster is a 20 centimeter. 1 inch is what, 2.4 centimeters, so it's about 0.8 of an inch of movement in a circle off of that center line, which is where the peg would normally be mounted. So it's not a radical change, but I wasn't looking for a radical change. You know, I want this to be all day comfortable. I was just looking for something a little bit more aggressive. You can get this adjuster in a 4 4 centimeters, so 40 millimeter adjuster, so this plate, to let you move it up and back even more if that's to your liking. I just wanted it to be a little sportier. I'll have to get a chance to go out and ride it sometime, maybe this weekend, and see how I like it. But oh, and also for the last video, people said the lighting wasn't as good because I had the garage door open because it was like really crappy and dark outside. You can see the whatchamacallits, the frame sliders installed there. Very simple install. Go back and watch it. But for those that couldn't quite see it or make it out what it looked like, they're very incognito. They just kind of sit hidden away there. Blend in with the black. I took the stickers off. Here's the peg from the other side. And there's a frame slider from the other side. But that's all we did. We moved them up a little bit, back a little bit, adjusted them for the second hatch. So I sat on the bike, put my boots on, feels good. May have to adjust the shift lever slightly because I have moved it basically 3/4 of an inch back and 3/4 of an inch up. So nothing radical, but it's enough to feel a little bit of a difference. I might try the other ones, the other adjusters, because they're cheap, just to get that plate. Now that I have the base and the pegs, the plate's like the $24 part. I might try that just to see if I would like it even further up and back, or just as high but maybe further back. You know, I can that lets you play around with it. So without having to go to the whole thing of all the rear sets. That lets you keep your stock levers, your stock heel guards. You don't have to worry about remounting the switch and mounting this. The other side was kind of easy because you just disconnect the shift linkage and screw it into the new one, and it's easy. This one was kind of a pain. I had to remove some stuff up here to make room in the brake cables, you know, to be able to get that in there right. And it was still pulling really tight. I wasn't quite happy with the full rear sets. But for this kind of bike, I don't think it really needs those. So anyway, that's where we're at. If you're thinking about doing the mod, it's easy, it's relatively cheap, and you can adjust it all in around in a circle, and you can get the longer length that allows a bigger radius for you to adjust it. But other than that, it keeps everything else stock. Looks pretty good. There you have it.